From the Journals of Dipper Pines, Saturday, June 29th, Mabel woke me up this morning at 7:40. Even though we're not sharing the attic any longer, I think she's going to be coming up here all the time. This morning she bounded in because she wanted to show me her newest sweater, which she's almost finished. It's kind of a yellowy-greeny, I guess. She tells me it is chartreuse, and I had to look up how to spell that. Anyway, on the chest the sweater, which is about the size of a circus tent, has a, embroidery, is that the right word? No, Mabel says applique, of the maroon-colored fez Grunkle Stan always wore until he turned it and the management of the Mystery Shack over to Seuss. Do you think Seuss will like it? Mabel asked, bouncing up and down on her old bed. Mabel, I told her, I can't think of anything Seuss doesn't like. She looked thoughtful, rolling her eyes up to the ceiling and sticking her tongue partway out of the corner of her mouth the way she does. The taste of fish food, she reminded me brightly. She bugged her eyes and stuck out her tongue about a foot. Blarg! I remembered how Seuss had frantically tried to scrub the taste off his tongue with both hands, and Mabel imitated that, too. It was a pretty funny impression. Heh. Yeah, that was one thing, I guess. Mabel said she'd finish the sweater in time for it to be a 4th of July present. I didn't point out that the 4th of July is not usually a time when people eagerly look forward to receiving sweaters as presents. Anyway, she left the nearly finished knitting up on her old bed, and then we went down and had some juice and cereal for breakfast. After that we got our putters and a couple of golf balls, the inanimate kind. Though the Lilliputians helped us during Weirdmageddon, we don't really trust them enough to go back to the mini golf course in town, and for an hour or so we practiced on the side lawn, where with Sue's permission we've trimmed the grass short and sunk 3 plastic drinking cups, bottoms punctured for drainage, into the ground to serve as golf holes. Each one has 3 approaches, and we've used old flower pots, boards, and other junk to construct obstacle courses, so it was like having 9 miniature golf holes in all. I have to say we had a pretty good time goofing around. It was a nice morning, the sun just up over the eastern bluffs, the day warm but not yet hot, and the air all around smelling of fresh, growing things after last week's rain. I'm really rusty, Mabel complained when she missed a 20-foot putt through a broken flower pot, up a ramp, and past zigzagged bricks, by an inch, if that. I gotta get back into champion condition. She raised the putter over her head and pumped it up and down while marching in place and chanting Champignon. Champignon! Then I took my shot, which bounced off the flower pot, and grimaced as she laughed while poking me with both index fingers. You missed by a mile, Broseph. 'Cause you were yelling in my ear, I told her. You're such a loudmouth. What? Avast. Nobody says that to your sister and lives. En garde. So with putters as swords, we dueled around the side yard for a little while. Then when we broke a sweat, we went into the shade at the edge of the woods and sat side by side on the bonfire log. Have a good time at the dance last night? I asked her. She leaned back, kicking her feet, and shrugged. Meh. I danced with a couple guys, but there was no zing, you know? Zing. You danced like twice with Wendy. She nudged me coyly. Did ya smooch afterward? She made little smacky, smoochy sounds with her lips. Well. Kind of, in a friendly way, but not seriously, I said. I also danced with Pacifica, but you probably didn't notice. You were way on the other side of the lawn with some tall geeky-looking guy, so. Mabel gave her gurgling laugh and said, at least Bronson didn't step on my toes the way Dwayne did in the first dance. Well, I guess I don't have to ask how your dance went. Pacifica. Trying to sound way casual, I replied, it didn't go all that bad, actually. Turns out she must really like me. She proposed to me. Mabel's eyes got really round, and she jumped up off the log. What? No. Freakin' way. With a modest smile, I said, yeah, as soon as we're old enough she wants to make me a rich man and be my wife. I'm thinking it over. She wrestled me down, pinned me on the grass, and gave me hard noogies until I said, stop, stop. I give. It's not true. I was just kidding. We said we'd just be friends. I rolled away from her and lay on my back, panting. And she wants us both to hang out with her sometimes, she says. Mabel sat back on her knees. Friends? Well, I don't hate her. I mean, she can be pretty fun when she's not being all la-da-da. Look at me, I'm Pacifica. Her voice dropped to that rare soft tone when she's decided to be serious for 2 minutes. You know, Candy tells me that since Pacifica's parents lost a lot of their money, her old crew has dropped her and doesn't hang with her any longer. That's mean. I guess maybe Pacifica might be lonely? Maybe, I said, flicking about 3 dozen scurrying reddish-brown ants off my arms. Did you have to hold me down over an anthill? I stood up and started slapping more of the skittering critters off my shirt and legs. Yes. Yes, I definitely did, she said firmly. Hey, look, here comes Wendy. Is it 9 o'clock already? It was, just barely. Wendy parked her beat-up old green car in the lot, sauntered over with her lunch bag in hand, and asked, "How's it hangin', dudes?" You squared away, Mabel? Yup, Mabel said. I feel like my old self again. Unfortunately, I added, trying to scratch an ant bite that was actually under the leg of my shorts. Mabel punched me. Wendy chuckled. All right. I'm gonna put my stuff away and get to work, guys. Later. I think I'll go in, too, I said, starting to follow her. Mabel caught up with me. Ooh, you want to whisper in Wendy's ear? Wendy, oh. No. No. If you really want to know, I need to take a hot shower and get these darned ants off me. Ha. Mabel said. That was my plan all along. To use my minions the ants to force you to shower. I actually don't know why she rags on me like that. I take a shower whenever I need one. And ever since that day last winter when Mabel set fire to everything in my laundry hamper, well, to be fair, she hauled the pile out to the incinerator first, I have been trying to wash my clothes a little more often than I used to do. That should be myrmidons, not minions, I told her. Huh? Look it up, I told her on my way to the bathroom. I lost count of the number of little red ants that I sent spinning down the drain. The warm water felt good on the bites, too, and I took a pretty long shower. Then, after I had just dried off and had pulled on my shorts, pants, and shirt, but not yet my vest or socks, I heard Wendy calling from downstairs, "Hey, Dipper. Phone for you." Huh? My cell phone was in the attic, on the little table beside my bed, plugged in and charging. Somebody called me at the shack number? Besides Mom and Dad, who could it be? I hurried downstairs still barefoot and Wendy said into the receiver, "Here he is now." She handed the phone to me, and when I raised my eyebrows in silent question, she gave a who knows kind of shrug. "Hello," I said, probably sounding a little uncertain. "This is Dipper Pines." The voice on the other end sounded like an elderly and cranky bulldog that had been taught not just how to speak, but how to talk. "You the young feller that chases ghosts?" I started to get the old tingly feeling that I get when a new mystery is breaking wide open. Well, I have chased one or two, yes. You broke up a serious haunting, and you, what's the word for it, exorcised a ghost from Mr. Northwest last summer? A tough ghost? Yeah, he was pretty tough. But to be fair, I didn't do it on my own. I had some help. Course a captain needs a crew. Stands to reason. You can use help here, too, Mr. Pines, if you want, long as you can get the job done. What are your fees? I don't really have any, sir. This is kind of my hobby. It would be free. I'd do it as a favor. Price is right, anyway. I thought he was choking to death until I realized he was only chuckling. Leave it at this, if you do me this favor, then I'll owe you one in return. Well, you sound like the boy for the job, all right. My name's Skipper. Admiral D.D. Skipper, U.S. Navy, retired. Mr. Northwest said I couldn't do better than call you. Son, I live a few miles outside Gravity Falls, and it seems I have a little ghost problem here. And so it began. Dipper borrowed a pen and pad from behind the counter and wrote down the Admiral's name and address. Tonight? Sure, he said. I'll try my best. Yes, sir, I'll bring everything that I need. And everyone. Dinner? Sure. 7? Okay, I'll find a way to get there. Yes, he felt a little silly. He hung up. Dipper explained to Wendy, replacing the receiver. What's going on, man? Wendy asked. Sounds all woo. She wriggled her fingers and grinned. This another mission, dude? Maybe, Dipper said. He quickly explained about Admiral D.D. Skipper and showed Wendy the address. He wants us there at 7, and he's asking us to stay at least until midnight. He claims a ghost almost always shows up then. No way, Wendy said. She glanced at what he'd written. Oh, man, this is like way out. Almost out of the valley. 12 miles at least, Dipper. You're not gonna ride your bike that far in the dark. Too many creatures out on these lonely roads at night. I guess I could call Grunkle Stan and ask if he could drive us. Or maybe Grunkle Ford would be better, though he'd take over the investigation. Chill, dude, I got your back, Wendy said. Hey, this is Saturday. My dad and my brothers always go bowling over in Roseburg and never get back before, like, daybreak. If I can tag along, I'll drive you guys over. I always enjoy these mystery missions of yours. Great, Dipper said. No sweat, Dip. I gotta tell you, though, after the convenience store, I'm not too stoked about ghosts. This one isn't gonna put us through the mill again, is it? I don't think so, he told her. I'm gonna read up on them, but I don't think this one is a Cat 10 or anywhere close to it. It seems to be a reproaching spirit, not a vengeful one. Dude, you like totally lost me. Oh, here comes a caravan. 'Scuse me, Dip, gotta get busy. Talk to you later. 6 vehicles, 3 cars, a van, a pickup truck, and a school bus that looked as if it had been converted into a camper against its will, all with California plates, had jounced into the lot, and from them spilled a crowd of people who looked so much alike, fat, dozy-eyed, and moseying, that you just knew this had to be a family reunion. So it proved, for the first 4 people in, a granny and Gramps, a middle-aged woman, and a toddler about 4, all wore t-shirts that proclaimed them members of the O'Donovan family. Seuss, rather natty in black suit and bow tie, came in to welcome them and escort them on the museum tour, $20 a head, babies and tots up to 4 free, and conjoined twins half price each, dudes. It was corny, but it got a laugh from the tourists. There were about 25 of them, only 5 of them under 4, and all but 3 of the rest paid the entrance fee not just dutifully but eagerly. I'm Mr. Mystery, Seuss proclaimed. Follow me into a world of enchantment and wonder. He threw open a door, walked in, immediately walked out again and said, broom closet, dogs. Next door. Dipper groaned a little. Seuss pulled the same stunt on each tour, and it always got a laugh. But seeing the big guy enjoy himself so much made Dipper chuckle a little, too. As the remaining O'Donovans began to browse the shop, a tour bus pulled up. Knowing Wendy wasn't going to have time to talk for at least an hour, Dipper climbed the stair up to the attic, pulled out his set of journals. Yeah, they had been incinerated, but Mabel and Dipper did a favor for Blendon Blandon, the time traveler, who found a clever way to duplicate the originals, yada yada, there's a story about it somewhere. Most of the material on ghosts was in Volume 3, but the first 2 had some good pointers on tracking down things like sprites and sithies, independent vapors and Jamaican duppies, Indonesian pangolins, sort of zombie-like except their heads can detach and fly around, looking for victims whose blood the ghost drinks. The sketch of one of these was pretty terrible, since not only the head flies, the creature's stomach and guts trail along under the head, drippy and oozy and supposedly cold to the touch. There was the Inuit Wendigo, a ghost as thin as a sheet of paper. You could only see it if it was facing you, because edge on there wasn't enough of it to perceive. Reading thoughtfully and clicking his pen, an old habit, Dipper made mental notes but wrote nothing down. He didn't have enough information to form any theories. But maybe at midnight, just possibly. Hi-oh! The bellowed word came so unexpectedly that Dipper, who had dozed over the journals, yipped and fell backward in his chair. Mabel, of course, just coming by to see what was up. She helped Dipper get back upright, scanned the back of his head and said that outside of a lump there was nothing wrong. Maybe, Dipper growled, but it's the inside of the lump that hurts. Hey, you want to go on a mystery mission with Wendy and me tonight? You're sure I won't be in the way? Mabel said, teasingly. Oh, Dipper, I'm so scared. Hold me tight. Here, Wendy, I got you. I'll kiss you to still your fears. Mm. Dipper swatted her with a pillow. Hey, sis, if that was gonna happen, I would definitely not invite you. Okay, I was kidding, Mabel said. So I'll pack my grappling hook, and I want to bring Waddles. I can't think of a thing that Waddles could contribute. He has a keen analytic mind, Mabel pointed out. Well, right now he's analyzing yesterday's undershorts by chewing on them. Come on, Waddles, Mabel coaxed, pulling the pig from beneath Dipper's bed, although since the previous summer Waddles had porked up so much that he could no longer get all the way under. Come on, Dip, you know Waddles wants to get reacquainted with his old hometown. It's fine with me, Dipper said. As long as Wendy doesn't mind him riding in her car. As it turned out, Wendy had no particular problem. Hey, some of the boys I've been in cars with, he can only be an improvement, believe me. You buckled in, Mabes? Here, hold him tight. Because the old Dodge Dart was currently lacking a back seat, they all had to squeeze in the front. Mabel was first in, and when Waddles clambered up beside her, she said, on my lap, little fella. And then she said, wah. Whoa. Off my lap, off. You're crushing me. Face it, dude, Wendy said, Waddles is no longer a lap pig. He must weigh, like, 100 pounds by now. Considering everything, Mabel said after she had urged Waddles out of the car, he seemed just as happy outside as inside. Really, I think his role is to remain here at headquarters and coordinate any intel we send back. Waddles grunted. See? He agrees with me. Mabel said. Dipper, get in quick and let's go before he climbs aboard again and starts to eat the upholstery. They left him happily ambling around the parking lot, nosing up little fragments of food dropped by the many tourists who'd passed through that day. It was a little after 6 when they left the shack. Wendy drove more conservatively with Dipper and Mabel aboard, and it took close to 25 minutes to go 12 miles and a bit. It's outside the weirdness bubble, Dipper said as they crossed an old bridge over the river. So this Admiral guy didn't get trapped in Weirdmageddon, Wendy said. Bummer. Anybody who wasn't inside the bubble didn't know Gravity Falls was, like, wiped off the face of the map for. How long did that last, anyway? Seemed like a week, Mabel said. I was in my bubble for at least that long. Yeah, but when it all ended, remember we found out it was still a week until our birthday. Bill had frozen time or something, Dipper said. Well, you know what they say, dude, Wendy replied. They all chorused, never mind all that. Then they rounded a bend and Wendy said, oh, man. I never paid any attention to that place. That the address? That's it, Dipper said, staring out the passenger window. It was a rambling house behind a high brick fence. He couldn't see much of it, but from what he could see, that's just the place to have a ghost, he muttered. Maybe even a Category 10. Geez, Wendy muttered as she turned in at the long drive. This is like seriously messed up, guys. The fence around the house and grounds must have been 10 feet high, brick but painted gleaming white. Ahead, a gate made of thick wrought iron spikes barred the way, but as the old car nosed forward, the gate swung open on silent hinges, as if opened by an invisible hand. "Wow wow wowie," Mabel said as the car pulled through the opening. "He's got toys." He did indeed. The broad front lawn was like a military museum. A howitzer and an anti-aircraft gun flanked the entrance. A World War II-era PT boat, looking brand new in sharp paint, rested on dry dock docks on the right, an M24 Chaffee tank hulkied on the left. A jeep. An armored personnel carrier. An LST. Even a T-6 airplane, a trainer decked out in navy colors, sat as though ready for takeoff. Beyond them, a few steps from the main door of the house, stood a 50-foot flagpole, with Old Glory at the top and below it the dark blue and yellow U.S. Navy flag. The driveway turned into a circle, the flagpole was in the center of the circle, in a grassy plot, and from it a smaller drive led to the left, where a three-door garage squatted. Wendy just parked near the front door, and they climbed out. Dipper turned and saw that someone had already opened the door. A skinny old guy in a dress-white Navy uniform stood beside it at attention. They walked over, Dipper wondering if he should salute. Admiral?" he asked. "No, Sonny," the old guy said. "Chief Petty Officer Doggett. The Admiral will meet you at dinner. It's time to lower the flags for the night. Would you help me?" "Sure," Dipper said. "You young ladies stand there. You know how to behave?" Wendy nudged Mabel and said, "We do." "Good." Doggett stepped to the door and pressed the doorbell 3 quick times in succession. From a speaker hidden in the shrubbery came the sound of attention being played on a trumpet. Doggett and Wendy simultaneously threw back their shoulders and saluted the flag, and after only a half-second of hesitation, Dipper and Mabel did the same. When the trumpet call changed to retreat, Doggett broke the salute and began to lower the flags. Wendy held the salute, and so Dipper did too. The trumpet call ended as Doggett began to release the Navy flag. Dipper stepped up and helped fold it, and then they did the same for the national flag. Doggett nodded without smiling. "Good job." "Thank you." He led them inside, paused to place the flags in a glass-fronted cabinet, and then led them down a hall carpeted in plush maroon until he indicated an open doorway to the left. "Wait here. The Admiral will meet you at 7 bells." He ushered them into a sitting room that looked as if it had been designed for department store mannequins, not humans. 2 sofas faced each other across a round coffee table on which a model ship rested. A chair was centered against 3 of the 4 walls, 2 more flanked the hall door. A row of paintings and photographs completely encircled the room, skipping only the 2 front windows and the 2 side windows. Every one of them showed a sailing vessel, some of them on peaceful seas, some fighting storms, and more with guns blazing in action. "Sit there," Doggett said, indicating one of the sofas, upholstered in navy blue, like the chairs and the other sofa. "I'll call you to dinner in 12 minutes. "Oh," thought Dipper. 2 bells is 7 o'clock. "This dude is seriously into ships," Wendy said, her voice almost a whisper. "I'll bet the ghost is a sailor," Mabel said. "Don't speculate," Dipper cautioned. "We have no data to go on." "Dipper!" Mabel scolded. "You've been hanging around with Grunkle Ford too long." Wendy had leaned forward to inspect the model ship on the coffee table. It was the USS Sabine Pass, a slim gray vessel with a squared-off stern, an array of radar domes on the superstructure, and a helicopter landing pad on the quarterdeck. "This isn't out of a box, dudes," she said. "I think it's like, handcrafted." "It's a cruiser," Dipper said. "Ticonderoga class, I think." He pointed across the room to the oil painting that hung beside the doorway. "I know that's the USS Constitution. That's probably her fight with the British warship HMS Guerriere." 2 bells clanged, and the same sharp, querulous voice he had heard on the phone said, "Right, Mr. Pines." A famous triumph for the U.S. Navy. The figure that stood in the doorway hardly matched the hard voice, a square-built man, not as tall as Wendy, with sparse white hair on a pink scalp, an ugly face on a head that looked almost like it had been carved, badly, from a cube of wood, and a heavy-set body in naval dress whites. "I am Rear Admiral D.D. Skipper, U.S. Navy, retired, ladies and gentlemen. Come with me." I told Doggett to see to the wardroom. He crooked his arm and Wendy slid her own arm through, glancing at Dipper and rolling her eyes. The wardroom was a dining room a few steps down the hall. Doggett led Wendy to a chair on the right of a long table, he placed Mabel to the left, and Dipper next to her, and he took his seat at the head. The table had been set with gleaming white china edged in silver, crystal glasses, and more silverware than Dipper could identify. "Now, then," the Admiral said briskly, "before we begin, introductions are in order. Mr. Pines, will you do the honors?" Sure, sir. This is Wendy Corduroy. She's a good friend of ours. This is my sister Mabel, and me you know. I mean, we spoke on the phone. I'm Dipper Pines. I'm talking too much. Very pleased to have you all aboard, the Admiral said. His face turned a shade of purple, and he shook his head, making his jowls wobble. Since this ghost business cropped up, got out of the habit of entertaining. His blue eyes almost popped. I mean, you're having a nice sit-down dinner, everybody's chatting, and then this ghost comes gliding through the walls and passes right down the center of the table, making faces and leering. Very unmilitary. Oh, here's Doggett. The chief petty officer had wheeled in a cart with covered plates. He served them all, finishing with the Admiral, and then uncovered the dishes. Dipper had expected fish, that would have gone with the house, but instead he saw on his plate a small steak, mashed potatoes, glazed carrots, and a compact little salad of greens, tiny tomatoes, and olives. Thank you, Doggett, the Admiral said. Well, I can say truthfully that Mr. Doggett was the best cook I ever sailed with. Dig in. It was all tasty, even the salad, which surprised Dipper, because he didn't much care for salads. Mabel, of course, inhaled everything, including 4 of the rolls that Doggett put on the table in a silver basket. Dessert was ice cream, vanilla with chocolate mint bits sprinkled in. Homemade, the Admiral said. Mabel had seconds, then thirds. Admiral Skipper beamed at her. Does me good to see a gal who knows good food, he said. So many of 'em are always on a diet. His white eyebrows waggled as he turned to Wendy. No offense, my dear. None taken, Wendy said with a grin. Hey, you set out a good spread, Admiral man. The Admiral threw back his head and gave a booming laugh. I like your spirit, girl, he said. Have you considered a career in the Navy? A woman can go far in today's Navy. No, sir, Wendy said. I'm pretty much of a landlubber. Pity. When even Mabel was full, they left Doggett to clear the table and went back to the sitting room. Admiral Skipper had them sit while he paced impatiently. Better let me tell the whole story, he said. I'm sorry for it, because parts are boring, but you need to know what you're dealing with. I hope you can make sense out of it. I can't. He launched into the story of his life. He had been born into a military family. One brother retired as a 3-star Army general, another won the Air Force Cross, and our little sister is currently a colonel in the USMC. The family was wealthy, our great-grandfather got into oil early, and he was good at identifying oil fields and stealing them from the rightful owners, and Skipper had gone into the Navy fully expecting to have a long career. Which he did, except, got stuck at the rank of captain, he growled. Nothing wrong with my performance. Always got outstanding reports. But, blast it, when your name is Skipper, and you're in the Navy, the joke was too good. Our Skipper's Skipper. Don't get me started on the subject of names. We know where you're coming from, Mabel chimed in. My brother won't even use his real name. It's M, that's enough, Mabel, Dipper interrupted. Let the Admiral finish. Anyway, the Admiral said, I voluntarily gave up my last command, you see the model there on the coffee table. Took shore duty instead. Couldn't stand the joking. He finished his service career at Naval Base San Diego. Got my promotion to Rear Admiral, he said. I was put in charge of a hush-hush top-secret experiment. I can't go into it, but it had to do with instantaneous movement of a ship and its crew over hundreds of miles, very technical. Anyway, things went wrong in the initial experiment. The ship didn't perform as expected. It vanished and then minutes later reappeared, but the crew suffered horribly. Most of 'em insane, some of 'em dead. And the ghost, I think, because I can't be sure, the ghost is one of the latter. You think he's seeking vengeance? Dipper asked. Don't know, lad. He won't talk to me. But why would he seek vengeance from me? I didn't design the apparatus. All the sailors aboard the research vessel were volunteers. My main job was just to watch the experiment and preside over the writing of the final report. Why, I didn't even give the order to initiate the experiment. That came from upstairs, not from me. His shoulders sagged. Of course, when everything went to Davy Jones's locker, if you follow me, I took the blame. They let me voluntarily retire, had my time in, no problem there. But I could have gained 2 more stars if not for being stuck as a captain for so long and then having my career cut short by the miserable experiment. I would have been a full admiral, not just a 1-star rear admiral. Dipper heard Mabel stifle a laugh. She murmured, "Rear." Sir, Dipper said, you know, I'm not sure that exorcising this ghost will help you all that much. I mean, you don't expect to be reinstated or anything, do you? No, son, I don't. But, well, I'm an old man. I'll be a ghost soon myself. The truth is, I just want to do whatever I can so this poor BAS fellow can rest in peace. It weighs on my conscience. If you can banish it, or at least get it to talk and tell us what it wants, I'll do everything in my power to help it. I'll try, Dipper said. Dipper, Wendy murmured. Dipper went on, the first thing we have to do is make contact, Dipper. Mabel said, frantically tugging at his sleeve, then I'll try an incantation too. What is it? It's right behind you, exclaimed both Wendy and Mabel. Dipper spun around. Whatever he had expected to see, it was not the awful thing that hovered in the air, its horrible eyes glaring into his.